Hey folks, this is Jack McNiel Jr. with the Kempner Church of Christ. We've been looking at the Sermon on the Mount for several months now, and we find ourselves in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, where we read about a better rule. Jesus said there in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, "Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do unto you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets." And so Jesus begins this verse by stating, therefore. When you see the word therefore, I always say this, ask yourself, what is therefore? Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 11, we looked at last week a better persistence. It shows that we need to ask, we need to seek, and we need to knock, because God will answer ultimately, and God will give us that which we need. May not be that which we want, but He will give us that which we need. Now, previous to that, we talked about a better judgment, how we are to judge others righteously. And so because we owe it to others to exercise righteous judgment, and because God treats us the way that He does, providing what we need when we persistently and consistently ask, seek, and knock, because of these things, we need, the way God treats us, we need to consider how we treat our fellow man. And so He says, whatsoever things that ye would that men should do to you. Luke chapter 6, verse 31, He says, and as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. And so however you want to be treated, how do you want to be treated? Do you want men to judge you unfairly? Do you want men to use an unrighteous standard of judgment when they're judging you? Do you want to be treated harshly? Do you want someone to treat you as if you were just this horrible person, unfairly, unjustly? Do you want to be denied the things that you need? Do you want to go without when there are things that you need to have? Do you want to be denied the help of your fellow man? You know, there are times when we need help, and if someone like the priest or the Levite there, when it came to that man that fell among thieves and was left there for dead by the wayside, do you want to be treated like that? Do you want to be treated and like that poor man there on the road to Jericho and have the priest and the Levite pass by on the other side? As we see there in Luke chapter 10, verse 30. Jesus answering said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him and passed by on the other side. Do we want to be treated that way? If that's how we want to be treated, then what does that say about us? But since we don't want to be treated in that way, then He says, do you even so to them. And so when we look at our fellow man, how should we view our fellow man, and how shall we treat him? We're to treat others with fairness. We want to be treated fairly. We treat others with fairness. We don't want to be judged harshly, and so we exercise mercy in judgments. We want people to help us when we are in times of need, so we help those who are in need. When we're struggling, we help others who are struggling. We want people to be like the Good Samaritan to us, so we need to be like the Good Samaritan to them. This Good Samaritan, he helped even those who were his enemies. Notice as we continue that parable there, beginning in verse 33, he says, but a certain Samaritan. Now the Jews and Samaritans, there was a lot of hatred, a lot of enmity between the two. He says, as he journeyed, he came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. The priest just looked and went on his way. The Levite slowed down and took a closer look and still went on his way. But here, this man had compassion on this man. He was stripped naked and left half dead. Kind of hard to identify whether he was a Jew or a Samaritan, but he just saw a man that was in need, and he had compassion. He bound up his wounds and so forth. He took care of him, put him up in an inn, and told the innkeeper to take care of his needs, gave him money to take care of his needs, and said, when I return, if there's more needed, I will give it. And so Jesus asked the question to those that he's speaking to, which, verse 36, which now of these three thinkest thou was neighbor to him that fell among thieves? And he said, he that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, go and do thou likewise. If we want to receive mercy, we need to be merciful. If we want people to do good for us, we need to do good for others. That's not the reason we do good. We don't do good to someone so that they will in return do good to us. But Jesus said, if that's the way we treat our fellow man, then that's the way, we can't expect to be treated in a good way if we don't treat our fellow man in a good way. And so he says, for this is the law and the prophets. The person who truly lives by the golden rule, who follows this better rule, will certainly be fulfilling every requirement toward his fellow man. Jesus calls this the second great commandments. Matthew chapter 22, beginning in verse 36. Here someone comes to Jesus. He says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? And Jesus said unto him, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Notice, on these two commandments hang all of the law and the prophets. You could sum up everything that we are to do. And we're to sum up what genuine love is, or what the Christian life is. You could sum it up in 2 verses. To love God with every single fiber of your being, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not as they do unto you, but as you would have them do unto you. And so let us seek to live our life fulfilling and walking after a better rule and treating others the way we want to be treated. That's why we call this sometimes the golden rule. We ought to live by the golden rule. Christians ought to be the embodiment of the golden rule. Have a good day.